So before I tell you my story, I want to ask you a question. So what does a lion surrounded by 12 hyenas have for dinner? It's a conversation I had with a friend of mine. And he said, I don't know. He said, what does a lion surrounded by 12 hyenas have for dinner? I said, he has 12 hyenas. A lion surrounded by 12 hyenas. He has to eat all 12 hyenas. He can't eat 10 because he'll get eaten by the other 2. He can't eat 8 because he'll get eaten by 4. And like for me, then when those 12 hyenas surrounded the lion, they gave him the gift of being challenged. And that's where I was at in my life. I was challenged. I was in a really low point in my life. And I was literally that lion that was surrounded. I was broke. I was broken, like 2 DUIs. My girlfriend's paying all the bills in the house. I was literally at the lowest point in my life. I didn't know what I was doing. I was working this crappy job where the owner of the company came up to me one day and I'm making nothing. And the owner of the company comes up to me one day and he says, Sanyika, I want you to change your first name because it confuses clients. So at the lowest point of my life, when I owned nothing, this dude he's trying to strip me of the last thing that I own, which is my identity. And that was what activated me. That was my 12 hyenas. And I had to reframe every step of the way. So I left that job I was working at where the guy asked me to change my name. I broke up with my girlfriend. I moved to San Diego. I drove my 92 BMW 325i to a sales job. And I was living like a college student in my cousin's aunt's son's room. And I was like, I'm going to rebuild my life. And that's exactly what I did. I had to go through my rite of passage, and every step of the way I had to reframe it. This is not a bad situation. Living in this room is not I'm not taking a step down. I'm taking a step forward so I can move towards the goal that I have. The goal was the biggest thing for me. In my first month in my sales job, I went from broke making nothing to being the number 2 rep in 30 days in that place. You know, the biggest lesson from that 12 hyena story that I gave to him, that I took for myself, is that whatever you are going through, like there are 12 hyenas in your workout, in your financial situation, in your love situation, and whatever that is. And if you are open to accepting the challenge, then literally you can change your life in an instant.
Welcome to the Are You Being Real show. You heard the amazing story from Sanyika The Firestarter opening up the show. Thank you so much for being open and sharing the lion hyena story. So inspiring. And I really acknowledge you for the man that you are. And it's an honor to have you on the show. I feel like you are the true embodiment of someone that had a big dream when you were a kid, and as you were pursuing it, you know, went through a lot of the challenges that a lot of us face. I mean, in your own unique ways, that led you down a path where you found yourself not in the place where you wanted to be. You know, with the DUIs and, you know, being broke and having to get a sales job, and you're an incredibly talented artist. You're also a very large man, and, you know, people have probably been I imagine people have been telling you who you should be your whole life.
Oh, man.
A lot of times being an athlete.
Absolutely.
And to see, you know, how you've come out on the other side, having completely found your voice, owned your voice, you know, everything that you say is so poetic. And I'm just really excited to have you on the show and to learn more about you, your journey, and about your incredible teddy bear campaign, which is launching very soon. So welcome to the show officially.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Very much appreciate it.
My pleasure. So authenticity, being real, is the theme of this show.
Can I share something with you?
Please.
The one thing I really appreciate about you is the fact that you know, this it's like the pursuit of vulnerability. And through the podcast and through everything else, it just feels like there's a really honest pursuit of something that's beneath the surface, you know. And I've been on that journey, like I was telling you before, I've been on that journey to really tap into my own personal vulnerability in a really large way. So I appreciate the opportunity to just come and just be real. Amazing.
Thrilled that, you know, you jumped on board. And since you brought that up, your own journey to personal vulnerability, I'd love to just invite you to share more about that. Like what does that look like in particular for you?
For me, it is, everyone, like you said, at being a big guy, being an athlete, being this big black athlete guy who some people are afraid of, it's turned previously into trying to fit a mold, to change myself so that I did not offend, to change myself so that I did not, to make people feel a certain way. And as I started to really dig into who I was, who Sanyika is, and as I started to really tap into that, to be open to that, I was like, man, this is what I want to be about. This is the human that I really, really am. And to not hide that anymore. Because trust me, I used to have camouflage on at all times.
What do you feel like you had to break through, whether it was a story you were telling yourself or what chains were holding you down? Like,
the story, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I always tell people how I was broken, but the idea is financially broken is emotional. And the idea is that the prison is literally your own mind. The prison is literally your own mind. I was working at a crappy job, not necessarily because I had to work at a crappy job. I was working at a crappy job because I didn't believe I could do better at the time. My trauma, the things that I had not faced in my life were my prison. And so I was trapped by the trauma, and the trauma was what was preventing me from breaking free. And so a lot of people, like when they're trying to get out of their own way or to move to a different level in life, to move to that next level, they don't realize that the thing that's trapping them is the trauma. The non-confrontation of the trauma. That's why we need to be challenged. Like you have to have something that stokes you, that pokes you, that prods you. Because if you're not being challenged in some way, shape, or form, then you're not going to realize it.
For sure.
You won't see it.
For sure. I mean, there's an element of wanting to be comfortable. Yeah. No one really wants to, I think the better way to say it is no one really wants to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So it's easy to be comfortable. Unfortunately, though, when it's our hopes and dreams that are at stake, I personally think that it's worth being uncomfortable, because I think we're only lying to ourselves to tell ourselves that even when we're playing it safe, that we're still uncomfortable. Yeah. Because if we're not really going after our hopes and dreams, like it's going to create some disalignment and some anxiety and maybe frustration or jealousy or envy within us when we're not actually doing the thing that really our heart is calling us at.
For sure.
You got a really inspiring story, and I'm curious to know. So you found yourself in San Diego, you're working the job, and now you're the fire starter. So I'm curious to know how, like, the process, if you can tell us a little bit kind of linearly, how you went from that career doing sales to being, a speaker, to starting to own your voice, and how that's evolved. Because I know we were talking about this off air, and it's a really cool story that has led you to the teddy bear campaign. Sure. So I just wanted to, I think it's really important. I think a lot of times when we go out and we have an idea or dream to pursue, it usually doesn't necessarily unfold just the way we thought. It's when we take that first step, we can see things that we couldn't see at our previous vantage point. And I know it's opened up, the door for opportunities that maybe you couldn't have imagined when you were working the sales gig.
Yeah.
So I think it is helpful sometimes and I think you have a great story that shows how things have unfolded and opened up and evolved.
Sure. The transition to San Diego just came because I needed to. So I joined an entrepreneurs group. That was the big thing, because one of the things. So one step before, I was a songwriter for Universal Music Group, or for a label on Universal Music Group, and I was pursuing a career in songwriting. That's me. Like I tell everybody, I'm a writer. I'm just a writer trapped in the body of an NFL lineman. But I was writing for artists. I wrote for Nick Lachey 98 Degrees, and I wrote for Too Short and some other, independent rock bands and boy bands and rappers and stuff like that. But I wasn't making a living as it. Previously I was doing acting and TV and commercials and stuff like that. But, I transitioned into music, and that was the hardest journey of my life, because the thing I always wanted to be was an artist. I've been rapping since I was 12. I've been writing poetry since I was 4th grade. And when I wasn't making a living, I realized that to be a good writer, you have to have good human qualities. Like you have to be vulnerable and, know how to collaborate. Those are skills that I did not realize those were skills. And I took it for granted. So that's when I sunk into the depression, because I couldn't get out of my own way. Because I wasn't collaborating. I wasn't building relationships. There was no community in my life. It was just me.
Lone wolf.
Yeah, absolutely. I call it incubating your own ideas. And that's a really bad idea, right? So the thing is that when I joined the entrepreneurs community at the collapse of another effort that I had, I joined the entrepreneurs community. And then when I joined the entrepreneurs community, now I'm in front of people who could basically see my shit. And they could look at me and be like, oh, he's full of shit. Like, not, I mean, my essence as a person has always been the same, but I was masking, you know, I was masking myself. I was hiding in a way, you know, not really telling people what was really going on in my life. I didn't even know how to do that, how to be like, you know, I'm at a situation where I don't have enough money. I'm in a situation where my girlfriend and I are not getting along, and I'm not sure it's good for either of us. I'm in a situation where I'm not sure how to connect with my mother to handle some traumas that I'm experiencing, that are coming up for me now from my previous past. I had no idea how to handle any of that. I had none of those resources, none of those tools. And now I got people, evolved men, who are asking me those questions, and now it's just like triggering stuff in me because I don't know how to handle it. So I'm going through that process. We meet every weekend, going through the process, learning more about myself. And then that's when I moved to San Diego, because I was like, I gotta get my life right. So me and my girlfriend broke up, and we're still friends to this day, very good friends. We broke up, moved to San Diego, and I was like, I'm gonna live like a college student. And I was like, I'm gonna live like a college student. My cousin, who is in LA, I'm from DC area, but my cousin, he's from San Diego. So he has his mom's side of the family. Our fathers are brothers, but I didn't know his aunt. And I was like, do you have anyone down there who I can stay with? So he's like, yeah, my aunt. So he introduced me to his aunt, and she was like, my son is away at Humboldt University, and you can stay in his room. And I was like, done. So I was like, I popped in my 92 BMW 325i. And the beautiful thing about driving an old BMW is that anytime anybody asks you what kind of car you got, you just be like, it's a classic. Yeah. It's a BMW, right? Just a BMW. So I hopped in that car. Tags were bad. Like, everything was bad with that car. And I'm just praying praying I don't get pulled over, praying that the car makes it to San Diego, because I haven't driven it that far. And it was a tank, dude. It was a tank. Drove it down to San Diego on November 15th, 2015. I remember the day. November 15th, 2015. And my first day was a Sunday. The 16th was Monday. And my first 2 weeks as a salesperson, we're selling this debt elimination product. My first 2 weeks, I was like, they want you to get like a deal a day. I got like 3 deals in 2 weeks. In that month, the first full month was December. I was, out of 28 reps in that room, I was the second best salesperson in the company.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, like, the idea that we are literally trapped by our own mind is just the truth. Mm-hmm. It is the truth. I was trapping myself just because my belief system has so limited me that I wasn't even living up to any aspect of my full potential. Not even close. So that's what that realization was. So I worked in San Diego. And as I was in San Diego, that's when I was building out my speaking career. Mm-hmm. But the conflict came, again, on your journey. It was like, I'm this artist, and I am also a speaker and have a desire to inspire. How do I combine and fuse the two? I was trying to figure it out. And then I wrote a spoken word piece. The very first spoken word piece I wrote was called Be You. And Be You is the piece that even to this day, I perform it literally everywhere I go. But then the little wrinkle in it was that, okay, I'm not just a spoken word guy, I'm a music guy. So I added piano to it. And then with piano, that piece is a soaring piece, right? So then I started to toy with it, and I started to toy with music and spoken word and the storytelling, music, spoken word, storytelling, music, spoken word. And then I got an invitation to open up a farmers insurance agency and then write a piece called write a piece for veterans, honoring veterans. And then I was like, I'm not a veteran. I was like, what am I going to write? And then I said, well, what if I wrote from the perspective of somebody who was ignorant about really what it meant to serve in the military? So I wrote a piece called Thank You for Your Service. And like I told you before, but I'll tell it for the audience. And it goes, thank you for your service. But what does that really mean? Because see, I never spent a single day on the battlefield. Never had to enlist and leave my life behind. Never woke up at 5 for boot camp daily grind. Never had to practice ducking a bomb blast or risk discovering how shrapnel feels. And that piece just explains from that perspective of somebody who thinks they know what it means to be a veteran, who has no idea, which is 99% of the population. Only about 1% of the population actually serves in the military. But the idea is that after we released it, I did that video, and this is like the whole like discovered kind of thing. Did the video, we filmed it on Facebook Live. A friend of mine saw it. He shared it on his page. He's a veteran. His other friend saw it, Greg Bishop, saw it, and he was like, I have a network called the All Warrior Network, and my audience would love it. And so he was like, I want to really film it though. So he calls up the U.S. Department of Defense, the Army. They get us on a Joint Forces training base in Los Alamitos in front of 8 Black Hawk helicopters, and then I film it on set. And not only was it just epic being there, when you got an email from the US DOD saying that you got approved to be, it's like, it's legit, right? So I still have that email. But when the servicemen who were working on the other helicopters, when they stopped to listen and they felt the impact, man, it was powerful. Mm-hmm. That was powerful. So
I think that's an amazing story. Yeah. And it's an amazing story on so many levels. I mean, just going back to San Diego, it sounds like you kind of regain your humility, learn to ask for support when you needed it. And then you got kind of the foundation back where you started building some momentum, making good money with your sales gig, continuing to have your eye on the prize of your goal to speak and inspire, reinventing yourself in the process, creating a whole new art form, tying together speaking and spoken word and performance together. And I love the piece as well with the Farmers Insurance, where they asked you to do, the piece on the veterans. And like, you could have easily tried to bullshit your way into talking about what it's like to be a veteran. But, I really like just the way that you spoke it in, your own terms and in a way that that really resonated and was truly authentic. So, I really admire you for that. And I know what that's kind of continued to lead you down a path of tackling just topics that are near and dear to your heart. So I think that's the perfect opportunity to talk about your newest project, which I think is so incredibly important and timely, and that's the Teddy Bear campaign. So tell us about it.
After Thank You for Your Service, I asked my camera guy, I said, what's the win in Thank You for Your Service? And he says, that it went viral. I said, no, that's the outcome. I said, what's the win? I said, the win is that a random guy who no one knows can do a 5.5-minute spoken word piece about being a veteran who is not a veteran, and people can see value in it. I said, which means that it's transferable. So that was one thing. The other thing I asked myself and other people, I said, all right, great, that piece went viral. What's the real world impact? Like the real world impact, not just like eyeballs. And that's the question I was asking myself. And I said, going back to I was like, if advertising agencies can use art to drive the sale of products, can we also use art to drive social cause and people to take actions to support those? Can we use art in a powerful way, intentionally, purposefully, in that way? And I've been in pursuit of that thing like a maniac. Like, it's been my obsession, like literally my obsession. So after a school shooting that happened, I wrote a piece called Thoughts and Prayers. As a writer, I was like, oh, that's all right, it's cool, I'll put it to the side. And then later, after the Parkland school shooting, I was like, I gotta write something. And then everybody says we need more than thoughts and prayers. And then I was like, well, what if I wrote a piece called Thoughts, Prayers, and Teddy Bears? And then the first line of the piece, it was sequential. It literally happened in this order. I said, what if I wrote a piece called Thoughts, Prayers, and Teddy Bears? And then I wrote the first line. I said, for every kid lost in a school shooting, there's a lonely teddy bear. And then I was like, what if the teddy bear told the whole story? I was like, yo.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even write it. And I was like, oh my. I was like, yo, that would be crazy. And then I just wrote the piece, you know. And then, you know, we had been playing around with the musicality part.
Yep.
And then the musicality part, we decided to score it and to just do it like it was a movie. And it just took it to an entirely different level.
And what's your plan with the teddy bear campaign?
So after I wrote the song, I said, okay, well, now we sort of wrote the piece, but what's the driver in this whole thing? And then I was like, how do I do more than just write a piece about it and then just like, you know, and just hope it just does something on online? I was like, we got to actually be present. You got to be physically present at the same time you are, you know, doing stuff, you know, creating content. You know, so the idea was, let's do more than just make a song and a piece. Let's do it. Let's make an impact. So the Teddy Bear campaign was what was born from the song More Than I Can Bear. And the Teddy Bear campaign, which tells the story of a school shooting from the perspective of a teddy bear, but the whole intention of it is to inspire people to take actions that support organizations that fight to end gun violence, protecting kids in schools. So there's a few different aspects to the campaign. Mm-hmm. So we are shooting the music video for the campaign, the video for More Than I Can Bear. And we're going to have about 40 kids on set. We're shooting that in a couple weeks, week and a half. So 40 kids on set, mm-hmm. and we're going to be performing that piece. And the goal is to just really tell the story in a really powerful way. The first verse is about the teddy bear realizing his owner's not coming home. Second verse is about the family and their mourning process. Third verse is about how the teddy bear's had enough, gets an army of kids behind him, and then they go from being teddy bears to becoming grizzly bears. So that's the theme of the video. Right. And then we're going to have celebrities and just everyday people in the video, user-generated footage of people doing video clips from their cell phones of them with their teddy bears saying lines from the song. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a bunch of videos in there, you know, so it'll have a lot of elements that'll be really cool. But that's just the beginning of it, right? So the big climax of it is the delivery of 535 physical teddy bears to the steps of the U.S. Capitol to inspire them to pass legislation that supports universal background checks in the U.S. So on each teddy bear is going to have the name of a kid that was killed as a result of a school shooting. So honoring them, and that will be in commemoration of the 20th cycle since the Columbine massacre. And if we can reframe the way that we see teddy bears forever, yep, and use that to inspire people to pass legislation that protects kids and everyone else as a result, then I'm down to do that. Such
an incredible mission, and it resonates so deeply. We were talking about it off air. You know, obviously the stats, what, 8 kids a day?
8 kids die every day as a result of gun violence.
I mean, it's just absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
8 too many.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
There's 365 days in a year. And just the loss of kids has not been enough to create the change. And to me, that's devastating, and that's sad. And then, you know, being real about what does work in this world, and that is the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
So I think that you've done a really beautiful job coming up so organically with such a creative idea of showing this lonely teddy bear that has been lost and left behind, and putting the name on it, and, you know, seeing it, you know, up in Washington. I think it's going to be incredibly powerful, and have a big ripple effect. And like, I already see it like in an art museum as something that's truly symbolic and revolutionary, using art really to create change in a powerful way. I'm very excited for this, and people can get involved, correct?
Yeah, there's a few ways for people to get involved. Awesome. So you can go we have a crowdfunding campaign going on right now. You can go to grouprev.com/teddybears to make a contribution towards the campaign. That will pay for the cost of the music video, will pay for the cost of the activation, you know, and all of the things in between. So, and then what we're doing is we're building a platform where the goal is to be able to raise money for organizations through all of these campaigns, by people purchasing teddy bears as well. And the majority of the money will go to the charities that we support, and that support organizations that advocate around gun safety.
So cool. And I can't wait to see the campaign come to life. Can't wait to see the music video and to just share and support the cause for sure. I had some colorful questions that I wanted to ask you kind of as we get into the third and kind of final part of the interview here.
Okay.
So a question for you is, you've had quite the transformation that's gotten you to this point, to create a campaign to fight, gun violence for kids, such an important cause. And, just not too many years ago, you were in a dark place.
Sure.
So, you've had the journey, and I'm just curious what wisdom you'd pass along to listeners of the show, to, in terms of things maybe you've learned or inspiring words to share for people can find their own teddy bear campaign.
You can always get a second shot at your first dream. You can always get a second shot. And the difference when you did it the first time between the time you do it the second time is your belief system. Like if you can literally build your belief system, build the belief that you have in you, like the power, the ultimate power that you have to really double down, triple down on your natural gifts, then you will be unstoppable. Like somebody told me this. They said, when someone spots your greatness, believe them. And that is the truth. And because I didn't listen to when people told me about my gifts. I would say, oh, I'm being humble, and I would reject praise. Oh, I'm being, reject praise. I would just, always be rejecting of praise. Yeah. And as you reject praise, you reject your success. I'm rejecting my success. I'm rejecting the opportunity to believe in myself. Every time you say, you're great at this. And I say, oh no. And I don't receive it. And by virtue, I'm actually not even acknowledging you by not receiving your praise. Right. So I had to learn how to receive the praise and not to make it turn me into this egomaniacal person, but to know my gifts, just to know my value to the world. So I didn't know my value. So I had to learn my value. So I would say that the distance between, getting that second shot at your first dream is the belief and believing in yourself to an utmost degree. And the best food is the praise that you get from other people.
I'm really glad you shared that. And it's kind of ties back to a powerful conversation I had with my friend, Philip Horvath, that we had back on, I think like episode 30 or something of the show. And I was talking to him and I was telling him about Love Bomb, the app that I'm building. And what he said to me, what was so interesting about acknowledging people, is he referenced like a young kid who's like, I don't know, let's say 2 or between 2 and 4, who's just learning to be a human, whether it's learning to go poopy in the potty or taking, its first steps or behaving. And the family is usually around the kid celebrating every single little element or moment of the kid going to the bathroom or walking for the first time. And there is constant acknowledgement for young kids as they're learning and reinforcing those good behaviors. And then as we grow older, sometimes we only get acknowledged on our birthdays. And it's become so infrequent when, as humans, we crave it. And then, in your example, that even when people did acknowledge you, you weren't able to receive it. And I think that's a very, very normal thing. Sometimes I'm able to receive acknowledgments and sometimes I don't let them through. I deflect, or I'll mention something, like more to the picture that the person couldn't see, sure. Maybe a challenge that I'm facing, a vulnerability type of, thing where I'm actually deflecting the acknowledgement. Right. And I think that that's a sad thing. And so I'm building an app all about acknowledgement. I think that's a great, easy, free way to give love, is just by admiring somebody else for what you see in them. And it's a tremendous gift.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question because it ties back to another thing we were talking about off air, but the teddy bear campaign. And we talked about this. You haven't lost a dear loved one in one of the massacres in the schools. Right. So what gives you the credibility to be the spokesperson for this initiative?
Because I chose to.
Boom.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The choice.
Yeah. The idea.
Yeah.
The follow through.
Sure.
The execution.
Right.
Yeah.
All that. That conversation that I had with someone sparked this idea of just when a woman came up to me, she said, have you lost someone? Have you, she was like really confused. Yeah. And I could see it in her body. Is like, she was really confused. She was like, why do you care so much? And I was like, if the impetus for me doing something has to be that it's personally affected me, then that's not the world that I want to live in. Like, I don't want to live in that world. That the only way you could help people who are poor is if you were if you were broke. Like, no. Like, I don't want to live in that world. I'd love the help of people who just cared about humanity. Yeah. Like you were saying, that people have different causes. I mean, whatever the cause is that speaks the most to your heart, then just speak to it, and bring it to life.
As we wrap up this interview, what can we do to support you?
Support this campaign. This campaign is important by virtue of the fact that the subject matter is important. Kids have taken a stand with March for Our Lives and other organizations where kids have really raised their voices. As adults, it reminded me that I wasn't raising my voice loud enough. And so this is my reminder and being like, you know what? We got some work everybody's got work to do. So if we support each other in efforts to make sure that our kids are safe, that we are safe, that, that we're making our stand in the world and our voices heard in the world, in reference to this really important issue, then I'm open to having everyone coalesce around that. But you can go to teddybearcampaign.org, film a video of yourself with your teddy bear. You'll see instructions online of what you can say on camera. But once you say a few lines from the song, it'll be an instructional video on the site. And then also to support and share the content once it comes out. And then once everything is ready, buy a teddy bear. It will go to an organization that advocates around gun safety, which will be announced when the site goes live.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting involved, so you can count on me, and I invite everybody else to join in on this really special and important cause.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. What are your final words of wisdom, inspiration to leave listeners of the show here today? Maybe it's something you thought about when you're driving over, or just one last final beautiful poetic thing that you want to share for people to live a beautiful, real, and authentic life that they're proud of.
Be clumsy. Be clumsy, dude. Like, just go. Trip. Be open to fall. Be open to break your head open just by virtue of the fact that you are doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Do it anyway. Like, just do it anyway. Like, it doesn't have to come out perfect. It just has to come out. Because if you're not putting it out, you're not open to being assessed. When you put it out into the universe, whatever it is, it will be assessed. And then as it's assessed, you can make refinements. If you're open and powerful. A friend of mine who was in internet marketing, he said, when you're in internet marketing, you have to be really, really highly adaptable. Be ready to change at a moment's notice. Be ready to change because the thing that you think is going to work may not be the thing that everybody needs. So you have to be ready to change and adjust all the time. And I was like, that's great advice. Mm-hmm. So be clumsy with it, but put it out. Because then you'll be able to, if you're open to adjust and you're willing to adjust, then you can adjust and refine. And then you might hit something that may be a gold mine, right? I wanted to be an artist ever since I was a kid. And I threw it away, tossed it away, stepped on it, didn't believe, received the praise, didn't reject it when people told me I was good at it, rejected all that stuff. And it created this distance between trying to do something to make other people feel good instead of just doing what I knew was unique to me and my heart. And I was like, you know what, man? Fuck that. I'm on. Let's go. That's it. So unstoppable force in every aspect of anything that goes on. Like, that's the way it rolls. So that's it.
The one and only Mr. Firestarter.
Much appreciated, my man.
That was amazing.
Thank you, brother.